but it's doable. That's right. It crashed again. Yeah, I know. Shocker. But it's doable. It's doable, finally. So it's like, all right, well, okay, I can get the necessary, wheel movement. I can get the steering. I can get the rear wheel steering. Lanyard is probably not the right call on that one. Yeah. But those older vehicles, like, I bet you they have a really good one already out there. They could easily start doing, you know what I mean? It gotta have a big front end, though. That's the thing. So, like, that rear end is really what is. It's a bed. It's not a bed. It's actually a big roll cage inside of, like, the old, bench seat that's laid down flat, you know what I mean? But, like, that then means the seats are, well, yes, they are the Toyota suspension seats. They are really good, like, actually worth it, you know what I mean? Raise it a little bit, give it a little bit better on the suspension geometry, right? Like, you need to be a little bit more able to handle some of this torque. So all this flex of this chassis has got to have those tubes, you know what I mean? You got to have that chassis stiffening frame. And I'm saying that's a thing, yeah. So everything has to be mounted, but the thing is like, I kind of like a little bit of that Daytona-ish look. I mean, who doesn't, right? But point is that I was thinking about getting it out of the rear fender wells, just behind where the tires would be, because instead of having it dump into the bumper or go straight side, because it just wouldn't work very well, right? And then out of the hood just also wouldn't really work very well. You gotta have at least a little bit. It's just too damn loud. It doesn't make any sense, right? Like, for the first off, the look, it's supposed to be a bit more like a sleeper, like the third, movie, right? Right, like, that's kind of what that's about, right? Like, he built up a vehicle. It's a hodgepodge of shit, but this is a hodgepodge of shit, but different. It's like all of them are coming together to make that kind of shit happen. You know what I'm saying? Right? So it's like, all right, we can dump it out in the rears, along the sides, kind of where the tail lights, but we can just move those in a little bit, right? You still have to have them, but now we can get our resonator and our muffler off of some trucks or whatever, right? But we still get the big, deep, growly, throaty roar that we're really looking for. That's the fun part. Side note, fun part, right, is, yeah, but they're going to probably do a little less, you know what I'm saying? Like, just the one, right? 2-into-1 after essentially what we need to do for the catalytic converter or whatever might need to be there, right? But they might not do that. They might just do a straight pipe because it's movie stuff. Right, but for anyone that actually wants to make this for real, you kind of do need the 2-in-1. So it's like 2 cats into 1 high flow, right? Just because that makes sense. You go to a junkyard, you get some fat, you basic, like, rip them off a fucking truck, yeah, kind of cats, and it'll work, right? And then 1 big old high flow, right? You can get the higher flow cat if you need to. You need to. Same thing for carburetors. If it's what it is, right? Carbs mean you gotta get the hydraulic fluid out. No cable is gonna be like the better option here, sadly. For our throttles, everything's analog throttle. It'll be wide open. You're gonna be the one that adjusts your very needed gearing, I guess, is kind of what that turns into, to allow for it to move more or less depending on at different positions of your throttle. I get you that it works. It's a worthwhile endeavor to do it correctly, right? Like, we don't want to really actually just smoke everything, right? I know we got a fluidic transmission-ish, right? But, like, come on, dude. Like, this is too much torque and power for anyone. At throttle control, a small blip, you slightly hit a pothole, you could just spin out. So I don't think, even for like the ones that would probably be the stunt people or whatever that would drive it, would be able to do that safely without having a little something to help them. You know what I mean? So that kind of thing, yeah. besides that, right, we get into like the lesser of the evils of how can we hide this? Like, well, it's a bed, but it's not really. It goes up and then, it's the trunk. But like they have all the gubbins and gadgets in their trunk, right? Now for us, regular folk, well, yeah, kind of similar, but not really, like we're fire extinguisher or any of that stuff that we might need, right? Because we're still going to have to get the roll cage. But it's like, how do we hide that underneath the pillar kind of things and all that? Want to get the correct 5 points, that sort of stuff. And all of that, of course, is worth it. That is some bright stuff, man. But like, yeah, his headlights are fucking ridiculous. I don't know what it is about like things being those colors. That white color is just the worst, Yeah. But anyways, that's what that would be. Like, that's where I got the engine idea from. It's like, take a fucking diesel, say, what can I do with a diesel if I knew a couple of things and I was willing to like drill some holes and thread some, do some tapping and threading, right? Do a little weld here or there, get it back up to spec, get some good connection rods, like what could I really do, right? Like a good amount, you know what I'm saying? Like I could do a good amount, and I like that. I like that part. Like my mind goes like, hey, it's a Frankenstein, I get it, but there's nothing saying I can't make an adapter, bro. There's nothing saying I can't do what I need to do to make this work, so I don't have a water-to-air or air-to-air intercooler. I got a carburetor. The carburetor works pretty darn well. I got higher compression. I got nitromethane, and I'm cooling my engine with nitromethane. Now, granted, we probably wouldn't do that for regular stuff. I mean, it takes an enormous amount of heat to get it to burn, right? And it requires air. There's no air in your system. There should be no air that you're getting in your system, right? But, and a crash and all that, it'll just leak, and we make burn anyways from crashes, is what I tell people, right? But like, you can always put a fire extinguisher system into your engine bay, like a CO2 or something like that just dumps as much as it can into that area to try and prevent, it doing that kind of thing. Do you want to? I would. I'd do a nitrogen and CO2. I mean, that's just a bunch of nitrogen pellets, for your airbags, and like a little bit of CO2 canisters in there. Probably work just fine. You know what I'm saying? And I do that because it's like, hey, you don't have to do that. But also, it would work. And it would work well. Yeah, and it's legal, which is the other nice fun part. It's a legal way to go about it. Now, you still have to cool your fuel, and you still have to pump it back into the tank, so you only have a battery. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna eat your coolant, is genuinely what you're doing. But, is that a bad thing? No. Ish. Depending. Nitromethane, my way was like, hey, but I know of a way to make it from liquid chemicals that are safe to buy without needing a license to buy those, and then combine them with a catalyst and a little electricity at the point where they're in the rail. Then it's just squeeze it out if you ever get pulled over and you think that someone's trying to get you on nitromethane and you're not supposed to have it. You know what I'm saying? Right? Like, hey, look, I can't make this maybe legally here. Other places I might be able to. That's a whole other thing. But at least for that, I wouldn't be able to maybe do that, at home, it's supposed to be like some kind of big hubbubaloo thing that's really hard. It's not really that hard to make nitromethane, right? But it's a monopropellant. If you don't know what that means, it means when it vaporizes, cool, but that means most of the energy goes away, right? But then when you break it apart, it's somewhat similar to acetylene. Somewhat. Or it'll explode a little bit. There's enough oxygen to burn a small amount. Not much, though. That's the real rub with those things. And if you know that, then it's like, will add a little of something to make that not happen, which is mostly like, oil or something similar. And, well, it works. It works pretty darn well. It tends to reduce pretty massively the majority of that possible monopropellant issue, which is great. Now, the reason why I know that is because I'm pretty interested in things like that. That's how that works. Not many people probably know that and probably think I'm just fucking yanking their chain or some shit. But or at least I know a lot and they understand that I do know that. Right? It's gonna swing how it swings. That's not what this is about. And I think that goes down to that home over there, so I shouldn't do that one. But I want to. That's a good spot. I haven't been down that spot before. My dog needs to go potty. Whole thing. But the point is that the engine is good. The engine can work. It's doable. All of that's on the up and up. If you want to run nitromethane, right? A higher compression on a nitromethane, come on, it's not so bad. It all depends on your tuning, of course. So there's that. I think I go back over there. I'm gonna swing back around if I got a spot somewhere in my head. I might hit that spot. But point is, then it's the transmission, which the transmission, people might not know what the hell fluidic transmission does, right? But it's like a gear here, it all depends on how the transmission is laid out, right? So like depending on how you decide to do that, when I say torque converter, people don't even know what a torque converter is anymore, right? It's just basically a donut with two fucking rotating turbine blades basically in it that makes it act almost like a flywheel, right? As silly as that is, it means a lot though, because you can run in automatic, right? But this would have to be a manual that has that, so it's like a wet clutch, effectively. Yeah, that it'd be real hard to break. You know what I'm saying? It's exactly what you're looking for something that big, meaty. But it's a V10. It's got to be a bit wider. Yeah, it's got to have the mechanical injector. The mechanical injector is what really kind of does it. Genuinely. Right? Like, it's the mechanical injector that tends to make it to 18K. But you don't have to do 18K. That's the real truth. You get your right gears, over 10,000 foot-pounds of torque literally means launch your ass off to the moon, practically. You know what I mean? So, it's a pretty big deal, right? And that's kind of the reason why I went with the torque tubes, and going with an all-wheel drive. I'll give it a little lift, so that way it can squat itself down, so it goes, and then as it goes forward, whole thing, yeah. But it's a big meaty engine now, right? It's a fat hunker. It's gonna weigh a good amount, but it'll swing the way you want it to if you know how to do it. So I feel like it's a reasonable thing to try, and it is if you know what you're doing and you're not too afraid of what you're doing. That's the scary part, right? Like, it's a very break you engine if you don't know what you're going to do with it. Like, you're gonna die. That's for sure the case. And that's all I have to say about it, right? From there, transmission's good. You just gotta know how to do that. You gotta know how to put those things together in the right way. From there, it's not too terrible to go to diffs that are just built, just full, like those are just built fuckers. Yeah, those are huge truck, front ends basically with independent, because you're gonna need that. Because they're not only doing, come on, it's treatable. If you want to do solid, it'll work, but solid is It's better to break an independent and then just stick another axle on versus a whole solid, and it might break the actual tube that holds your axle. You know what I mean? Like that fucker will probably break. So then it's brakes. Like, all of this is cool until we get to brakes. I want to talk about brakes. You have to get good vented brakes. You need them big too. That's why it's like, oh, these are gonna have to be bead locked. Yeah, you're gonna need these fuckers to have dual calipers front and rear. Even if it is smaller and all that, it doesn't change for sure. The rest of it is still what it is, right? It requires you to be a little bit more conscientious of how you need to not die. That's what that turns into. Not a bad thing, but I was thinking 3-piston, dual in the front, bigger, but if somebody crashes, they might have carbon ceramics. You know what I mean? And we break off the little cracks that can start to form from that, right? Then you can shave them down. They're not as big as they once were, but it'll work. Same thing for those rears, but as long as you can get something that will do the trick, so to speak, right? And that's it. Yeah, like, just built now. And I got you a 5-second car. See what I mean? That kind of fun stuff. That's a funny car now. Yeah. But that's also one of the reasons why I like diesel. Right? Like, if you know how to run